Welcome to the Power of Owning Your Career podcast, the show for women who are seeking more fulfillment in life and simply not getting it from their current situation. We focus specifically on careers, but hey, we spend a lot of time in our careers, so making changes here will definitely create an impact in your overall happiness. I'm your host, Simone Morris, and my mission is to empower women to succeed. I believe that in order to powerfully own your career, you must decide and claim that you want to sit in the driver's seat. You must know that you deserve better and be willing to not only do the requisite work, but be willing to go out on a limb to ensure your success. Each episode focuses on profiling a leader who is clearly demonstrating ownership of their career. Join me and my guests as we explore career journeys and bring you actionable strategies to use to get into the driver's seat for your career. Because ultimately, your career is your responsibility. Let's get into the show. My guest today is Heneka Watkis-Porter. She is an inspirational leader, an author, a speaker, an entrepreneur, and a podcaster. Heneka, welcome to the Power of Owning Your Career podcast.
Oh, thank you so much, Simone, for having me. It really is a pleasure to be sharing with you and your audience today.
Well, I'm excited for our audience to hear your story. Can you give us some highlights about your career journey?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So in my short years of life, I started pretty much as an accounting clerk, right? I hate accounting though, yeah. Started as an accounting clerk with the government of Jamaica. And then I went into procurement, one of our major distribution companies here in Jamaica as well. And then procurement at one of the top 100 ports in the world, which is the Port Authority of Jamaica. And that's where I left from to dive deeply, from the deep end right into entrepreneurship, and I've not looked back since.
Wow. So what do you think are some of the career defining moments for you to get into the driver's seat?
All right. I think when I was working at one of our distribution hub here in Jamaica, Lasco Distributors, I had a manager at the time who allowed me, and at the time I hated him for it, but he just threw things at me, like allowed me to take initiative to do the things that I wanted to do, or he wanted me to do, and saw that I had potential in doing it. And it was just, doing things that I found that when I was ready to start my business, they were very instrumental in, for example, doing costing, marketing for the business and procuring and how we go about doing the sampling and meeting with suppliers and stuff. And I thought at the time that he was allowing me to do things which were way above my pay grade. And I was very deeply disturbed by it. But I found later that it was really, really instrumental in, my getting off my business. And so I called him once and I thanked him for it.
Nice. So that was an important part of your journey. But how did you decide, Heneka, to basically launch into entrepreneurhood and take control of your career, to be your own boss?
When I was working at the Port Authority of Jamaica, first of all, I've always wanted to do my own business. And I think even from a very young age, I would sell apples at my gate, and I realized, there was an entrepreneurial spirit in me from a very early age, right? And I always wanted to do things like start a restaurant or do a full service-based spa or have a major store and things like that. There were a myriad of ideas that came to mind, but it was when I was at the Port Authority of Jamaica in 2007 to be exact, that this idea just jumped in my mind. I was recuperating from a minor procedure I'd done at one of our hospitals here. And I was at home recuperating because I was given 1 week off from work. And while I was laying in bed, I was watching one of our prominent morning television programs, and I saw somebody launching a product. I do not recall for the life of me what that product was, but all I remembered is that I jumped out of bed, totally forgetting that I should have been resting, and I thought, yes, Eureka, I have found it. I am going to have my own clothing line. And so the clothing line, Patois Apparel, was born, which is really focused on our language, our native language here, Patois, and making that trendy, putting it on clothing and putting an interpretation in English. So that is where it actually started for me. and the idea blossomed. And then before you know it, so that was 2007. By 2011, I was off from my full-time employment into full-time entrepreneurship. Of course, yes, the questions might be in your head. So wasn't there any moment of fear? Wasn't there any moment of, oh my gosh, is this thing going to work? Oh, there were lots of that, right? But praying continuously, seeking guidance. And every time I prayed and asked God for guidance, I was led into go ahead and do whatever you want to do because I am with you. And I share a quick story with you if you have the time for that, Simone.
Yeah, go right ahead.
So, as I said, I was always asking the direction, asking for guidance in terms of direction. I remember one morning, and particularly it was a Friday morning, as I was headed to work, I was turmoil with my inner self. My emotions were going wild because I just found I had to get up and go to work. Yes, I was grateful that I had a job. And so I was giving this guy a ride to work, a colleague of mine, giving him a ride to work. And I'm bawling in the car and I'm talking in the car and I'm talking to God. I'm talking to myself and I'm talking to him. I'm like, yes, I'm grateful that I have a job. But no, this is not what I want to do. And it was really a painful moment for me. And I got to work, right? So we have this at the time, a little room that, for me, I would go in the mornings and have my devotion, have reflections and so on. And I went into that little room and I prayed. And when I came out of the room, I turned my computer on and there was a devotional that I subscribed to, the Rick Warren Purpose-Driven devotional.
That's familiar.
Right. And once I opened that devotional, as a matter of fact, the headline was very intriguing. It says, obeying God involves taking risks. Like, okay, interesting, because this is the thing I'm thinking about. I'm going to have to be risking, all the safety of security of 9 to 5, paid vacation, etc., right? And this is a conversation I've been having many months before, and years even, and I've been getting the same response. And then fast track to this morning, and I saw that. But then what was frightening, Simone? As I read down further, it says, even if it means quitting your job.
Wow. Oh
my gosh. I was a nervous, emotional wreck at that point, right? And then there's this coworker who actually came into my, there's a cubicle, we set up cubicle next door to me. And she heard us shuffling early in the morning and she said, oh, Heneka, you're there. I saw you in my vision this morning. And the question that came to my mind was, what is happening? What are you doing when you're not here, but you're out and you're doing what you love? And like, okay, how could she be seeing me in her vision this morning when all of this is happening? Like, this is just salient point that I need to go. And so she says to me, what do you want? Do you want us to drop a piano on your head? And so she writes the word piano on a piece of paper, put it on my head and say, there you go now.
Nice. So there were signals for you to get to the driver's seat, it sounds like, not only from God, but from coworkers and just from the universe itself.
Yeah. He was just all there.
I know that must be difficult because culturally, how we are taught in terms of having a job, a steady job, and all those things probably were impacting your ability to just go right away.
Oh yeah, definitely, because you're taught, as you alluded to go to school, get a good education, so you can get a good job, right? You're not really taught. Times are changing now, and even in Jamaica, the landscape is changing, and the government has now mandated entrepreneurship as a part of the curriculum. And there are several things happening that is alluding to starting your own business, and that's okay. But we're coming up in a time when it's not okay. You're perhaps even viewed as worthless if you don't come out and go work for somebody and have this great job, right? And then the cycle starts all over again because you're unhappy because you don't think that it pays good and you want to leave and so on and so forth. Granted, I'm not saying entrepreneurship is for everybody. If you know, and you will know when it is for you. Don't fight it. Just go ahead and do it, irrespective of the fear that you face, right? Face the fear in the face, stare it in the face, and deal with it anyway. Was I fearful that I was not going to have a regular salary? Was I fearful that I wasn't going to have insurance, health insurance? Was I fearful that I wasn't going to have subsidized lunch and paid vacation and paid sick leave? Of course I was. I was absolutely very fearful. But you know what is interesting for me? And you asked the question about my journey, Simone, in the early stage of our conversation. And I found that though my first business, Patois Apparel, and it's now in transition, and it's something that further down the road I'll talk more of, and I'll be doing some launches and stuff, relaunch. But it has catapulted me into doing the things that really rest heavily in my heart and my true purpose lies, which is life transformation through inspiration. What do I mean by that? Patois Apparel has given me the platform to speak on different stages, not just locally, but globally. I'm speaking to young people, I'm speaking to women, I'm speaking to different groups in society who are inspired and who have been inspired by what I've been doing. And I've found that though I love the business Patois Apparel, that's not where my true purpose lies. So my true purpose lies in going out and sharing my voice with the world, sharing my expertise, being an inspirational leader. So hence I'm doing the podcast. Hence I'm writing books, because to whom much is given, much is expected. So I'm sharing that. Hence I'm doing leadercast events, because I'm promoting healthy leadership and proper leadership, good leadership amongst us. So I found that became a platform, a stepping stone, as it were, for me to get to the place where I'm at today, and which absolutely gives me joy. Like, even when I'm not seeing the financial returns that I need to see, I have absolute joy in doing what I'm doing from day to day.
Wonderful. I mean, you said so many things that I can relate to because my heritage is Caribbean too. And as you talked about facing your fears head on and dealing with it anyway, and knowing if entrepreneurship is right for you, I think that was just amazing and insightful for everyone. And so what would you, Heneka, say the formula for successfully owning your career is?
In our pre-interview chat, in my mind, I laughed at that question, right? Because there is absolutely no one formula for success. That formula is going to be dependent on what your outcome is, what your objective is, and what you define, first of all, success to be. Now, for me, success is not only, although it is very important for me, not only financial return. Like, I give an example. This morning, before our chat, I had a conversation with another podcast host, and she's just started. And one of her things, and she kept reiterating, was that I was very instrumental in allowing her and empowering her to start that podcast that she's now interviewing me on. And the fact that I am I'm having this conversation with her, and I was a major inspiration. That is, for me, is success, because it's not about me. I realize in a very paradoxical kind of way, when we live our purpose, Simone, it's not for us. Our purpose is for other people. But in a strange way, we get the satisfaction from it. So that recipe, I would say, your recipe must consist of what your purpose is. Because you can be doing things and you're perhaps going on a treadmill that you're not really going far. You're just on a treadmill. You're walking, but you're really not moving, not heading anywhere. So it's very important that we know what our purpose is. When we know our purpose, we identify who it is that we should be serving. Identify that one person, that one group of person that you should be serving, and serve that person well. You are not for everybody. As part of your recipe, there's a knowledge that comes that you are not for everyone. Not everybody is going to celebrate you. Not everybody is going to be a cheerleader, but your tribe will. And your tribe will even give you that fuel to go on, even in the days. And yes, there are those days when you don't feel like moving anywhere. You don't feel like doing anything. But when you're working your purpose and you're working for those that you're called specifically to work for, it will propel you. Another important thing is to stay in your lane. There is no traffic there. Don't go into somebody else's lane, right? Keep focused. Put blinkers on. Once you've identified the things that you need to be doing, put blinkers on. And it's so easy for us to get distracted by the bright, shiny objects. We get distracted. I get distracted by them at times, and I have to remind myself, hey girl, focus, right? Because we love to even distract ourselves by looking on other things. But stay focused, put your blinkers on, Celebrate your success in increments. So don't wait until you get to the end, but every move you make, every step you take towards your goal and you've accomplished something, celebrate that milestone, but don't dwell on it. Don't live in that moment. Oh my gosh, I've done this and yay, that's the end of the story. No, keep moving on, but celebrate it. Recognize when you have failed, and failure is not failure in the sense that, oh my gosh, it didn't happen, so I'm going to quit. No, recognize what didn't work, fix it, and move on, right? So those are the things that I would say as a recipe for success. The most important thing, however, is for you to define it for yourself.
Thank you. There's a couple things I want to just clarify with what you just said. And one of those, you said, put your blinkers on. What does that mean?
You're not looking to the left and you're not looking to the right. So it's like when the horse is in a race, they put blinkers on the horse. So the horse isn't seeing what's going on to the side, and distracted. So he runs in his own lane. He stays in his own lane and he focuses on winning that race, because that's what you want to do. You want to win at whatever it is that you're putting your mind to. You want to be able to win. So you're putting blinkers on and you're not perturbed by the Instagram falls and facade that you're seeing. You're not blindsided by, oh, Simone is doing this, so I should be doing it too, right? You're not blindsided because you're so into what you're doing. Yes, you may stop to recognize that somebody else is doing well and commend them, celebrate them, because that is important. Because I've learned that whatever I want to do, if I see somebody else who is winning at the things that I want to accomplish, I must first be humble in spirit to recognize that this person is doing well, because we know the negative emotions that can come in us at times as humans. We know, oh my gosh, she's doing so well and I'm not doing well. No, stop and recognize that somebody else is doing well, commend them and move on. But don't, oh my God, I wish that was me. And you start to get distracted. Your strategy is all over the place because you're not sure, right? So it's very important that you stay focused. Keeping blinkers on means simply stay focused.
Okay. And so is that the same thing as stay in your lane means stay focused?
Right. Stay focused, stay in your lane, do your race. Don't compare yourself. Stay in your lane means don't compare yourself to somebody else. Don't try to look at, oh my gosh, look at Simone. What is Simone doing so well that I can't do? And I don't know Simone's circumstance. I'm looking at Simone's end products, her success, but I don't know what she has to be doing in the background. I don't know the resources she has. I don't know what are the conditions she's working with. So stay in my lane and focus on the things that I need to get done. Focus on where I am going so that I don't get distracted, not just by bright, shiny objects, but by even envy. These are the things that people don't talk about. But the grinding mentality can force people to want to become an overnight success in an overnight, whereas an overnight success is actually 10 years in the making.
Sure. What are your thoughts on risk, how risk factors into all of this? And
yeah, as an entrepreneur, for sure, there's so many risks I've had to take. I was always a risk-averse person. So I don't understand why the entrepreneurial bug has beat me so much, because in my previous years, I've always considered myself to be risk averse. And entrepreneurship, by definition, is a risk. And so when you look at the two and think, you think to yourself, how do you connect the two where I'm concerned? Well, I've had to take risk in developing products that, okay, it didn't quite work. I've taken a risk in developing a brand and only to be given a lawsuit to say that I'm infringing when I had no idea that this person exists, and I've done all the legal channels and it happened. So it is key that you're going to take risks, because I remember when I was about to start, one of the things that I said to myself, what if it doesn't work? But what overrode everything else was the fact that I thought to myself, what if 10 years I don't do this, and 10 years down the road, I'm going to look back and I'm going to wonder what would have happened if. And so with that in mind, I concluded that I would rather take the risk to do it and fail than to not risk it at all and to be 10 years or 15 years or however many years down the road looking back and to say to myself, what if? I was afraid of doing the what if thing. And that is why I decided I'm going to risk it anyway. So life is risk. It's just a matter of balancing, doing your risk and your cost benefit analysis and balancing what it is that you're willing to risk. What is the worst thing that could happen when you do this? And once you come up with those worst case scenarios, you begin to ask yourself these questions. Am I able to deal with the outcome? What would I do if this happens? Right? And you find that your worst case scenarios never actually happen in many cases. And for people who start because I've started a few projects and they didn't work, and that's okay, right? I'm not going, hung up over them to say, I started a project and it didn't work, so I'm not going to start anything in life ever, because that's not going to give me the growth that I want, right? I'm going to learn from my mistake. I'm going to take risks, calculated risks. I'm going to take them. I'm going to learn from them, because you're not going to be successful, even by your own very definition, right? You're not going to be successful 100% at your very first attempt. You're going to have to shift some things around. You're going to have to move things. You're going to have to evaluate after and assess and to see what works, what didn't, and move on from there.
Makes sense. Absolutely. Can you think of a moment in your career that you avoided responsibility?
I'm trying to think. Can I think of any responsibility in what particular area, though?
In terms of owning your career, taking responsibility for an outcome.
My team, when I just started business, I'm looking back and I'm thinking it perhaps is my team, because there was a point when, because I was so passionate and driven and excited, still am, but I was being very unfair, I believe, because I wanted every single team member of mine to be perhaps another me, right? And I recognized a few years on that it's not going to work and it's not fair. I'm expecting them to have that same level of, excitement and passion and drive and to do the things the way I would do it. And I said, wait a minute, if I wanted another me, then I don't need them. And it dawned on me that I was not being the leader that I needed to be, right? It took me a while. It took me a number of years to recognize that I was not being the leader that I needed to be. I was not being the leader that I would follow. There are some times when I thought I was clear, but I didn't communicate clearly, right? And so being more self-aware now as a leader, as an entrepreneur, being very aware of who I am, being very aware that I am 100% responsible for the outcome, right? I now take that responsibility. And that's where, as you're saying, owning my career, because I'm taking responsibility for how I want to be treated, taking responsibility for the outcomes that I need, taking responsibility for the way in which my team responds to me, because I'm thinking perhaps, there are instances when I need to communicate more clearly. Perhaps there are times when I need to lead more effectively, as opposed to just allowing them to take the initiative that I expect them to take. But I also need to give the support to lead from a position of influence as opposed to a position of authority.
What advice would you give to someone wanting to successfully own their career?
Okay, so number one thing is to become self-aware. That is, IQ, they say, your intellectual quotient will get you through the door. It will get you the job. It will get you whatever it is, but it won't allow you to keep it. It's emotional intelligence that will allow you to keep it. And that means, just managing how you respond to situations around you, how you respond to yourself. Check in with yourself. It's very important to check in with yourself. How am I feeling today? Why am I feeling this way? And when you dig deeper and begin to ask the questions, you realize that what you thought it was about is not even what it was about, right? It's so much deeper than that. So it's very important. Persons wanting to own your career, you need to really identify who you are. Know yourself. To thine own self be true. Know yourself. And what are you bringing to the table? Bring that best self. Work on being your best self every day, because we're so flawed as human beings, right? We are absolutely flawed people, and we are just doing our best to get to that goal and to be that leader, be that career person that we want to be and that we've been called to be. So it's important that we evaluate, we self-assess, we check in with ourselves and check in with those around us. Show gratitude. Gratitude is a number one thing for me, because I find that, Gratitude causes more to come from a position of abundance as opposed to scarcity and lack. And that spirit of complaining and, oh my gosh, things are not going the way that I want to. But the more we become grateful and acknowledge the things that are going right, we recognize that we have so much more to give thanks for. And those are the things that will help us to be successful, to be perseverant, to knowing that, you need to stick to something, be consistent. You may try today and it doesn't work, but over time, your consistency is going to pay off. Your perseverance is going to pay off. So those are very, very key, to getting ahead. And of course, we talked about earlier some recipe for success. Staying in your lane and keeping your blinkers on, knowing who you're serving, know who you are, what your purpose is. And you get those together and you're well on your way,
Awesome. Well, the time goes by so quickly. I want you to tell our listeners how they can connect with you and if you want to share anything you want them to know.
Absolutely. So the number one place to get me, of course, is on my website, HenekaWatkis-Porter.com. But of course, I'm also on social media, Heneka Watkis-Porter. And if you look interested in my events, and there's LeaderCast Kingston, that's the platform, the social media handles and stuff. And send me an email. I would absolutely love to hear from you at henekawatkisporter@gmail.com. Would love to hear from you. So find wherever is most convenient for you. If it's social media or if it's traditional email, I just want to hear from you. And I'll be happy to answer any question that you have and happy to connect with you. Oh, my podcast. Don't we just say, yes, the Entrepreneurhood podcast. The podcast for entrepreneurs and leaders. And of course, Simone, you've been on one of the episodes in addition to people like Richard Branson and Seth Godin. It's an amazing podcast. And I really congratulate you as well with your podcast that you've just launched. So excellent stuff. And I know it's going to do well.
Thank you so much, Heneka. This episode is near and dear to my heart, being a fellow Jamaican and being able to so relate to a lot of the content of what you have said from my upbringing. I want to thank you for sharing your wisdom and advice and insights to our listeners. I know that they will benefit from it. So thank you so much. Thank you for listening to the Power of Owning Your Career podcast. Check out the show notes for today's episode on the SimoneMorris.com website, where you can find links to everything that was mentioned today. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and tell a friend or two about it.